that's what we're going to talk about today. So for those to bring you all up to speed, what this actual class is helping my wife and I write a book called Charity for All. And by Charity for All, we're not talking about the kind of the charity today where we just do the handout thing. Charity for All means love. That's the official definition of what charity is. That might be handing people stuff, but it might also be getting to know you, love you, care for you. So I did want to kind of cover that a little bit, kind of how the process goes. My wife and I sit around in the living room, and we're empty nesters, so we don't have any real interruptions except for my extra child, which is the Gospel Rescue Mission, often calls me unexpectedly. And so I have to answer the phone, and that interrupts our conversations. That's my only other child out there that's sometimes causes me havoc. But we sit around, we talk. We talk for about an hour or so about different homelessness issues based on whatever scripture we're reading and studying at that point. So we'll read the scripture together. We'll talk about it. We read actually a couple different translations. And we talk for close to an hour or more on each of these topics. And then my wife will go and start writing up kind of what we were talking about. And then we do that. It's really interesting that we'll talk for an hour. And how many pages do you think from an hour conversation we can pull out?
A lot.
20.
2 to 3.
2 to 3. It seems like we've been talking about all these ideas and all these illustrations, and we think, oh, this is going to be a 10-page little deal, and it ends up being 2 or 3 pages. If we got 2 pages, I'm really excited. But she writes it all up. Then we add a few more illustrations later as we read through it. And then my wife gets the whole thing together, and she sends it to me. And I add my 2 cents. I write in different things. I try to find illustrations from history, from literature. I try to find illustrations from the mission. I change the names to protect the guilty. All those sort of things. So we get stories to kind of really fill out what we're talking about here. And then I bring this to you, and we have the conversation. So that my notes that I take for this class have already been for the book we've already written. So after talking to you, then I will go back in. I'll look at that chapter and say, oh, we didn't say that very well. We need to clarify that. We need to put it all together. And so that's where the process is going. We actually have a really good draft of the entire book at this point, and it's only going to be shaped in the future from basically these conversations. My wife's going through it right now for my last revisions, and the last 2 chapters she hasn't seen yet. So we'll see how those come together. Those are a little bit more intense because it's got to close it all out somehow. So again, Charity for All. That's what we're talking about. In Charity for All, we're going to love our enemies, and it's based on Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, where he says Charity for All, and we're looking at the audience when he's saying that. His audience included former slaves, former slave owners. How you love each of those is going to be very different. You can't love them the same way. And people always want fairness. Well, you can't be fair because that's just not right. It would not have been right to treat those two the same. They each needed something different. He also was loving on somebody, at least one person with addiction, probably 2, because U.S. Grant was there. General Grant would have been there. He had his addiction issues. His vice president was already in the process of being impeached because of his drunken tirade during his first inaugural address as vice president. So he's talking with people with addictions, and obviously at least one very drunk person in that. He's also saying we've got to have charity for all. We've got to love our enemies, which includes John Wilkes Booth, who was listening to that whole thing, and John Wilkes Booth ended up shooting him. So Lincoln said, I want him to have compassion. I want you to love him too. Sounds a lot like Jesus, love your enemies. And I tell you, I pray that every single morning, God, help me to love my enemies. And this has been one of those weeks where we've had some of our enemies kind of bad-mouthing and talking about us and underhandedly doing some stuff, and some of that will come to fruition. You'll hear a little bit more about some of this next week, not to say who those enemies are, but some of the changes we're going to make to stay, so we can stay above reproach, sort of thing. But it's a challenge. So Charity for All, how can you love other people who sometimes drive you a little batty? Little batty. And so that's the goal. And if we can all do that and serve each other, we're going to make a big difference. Particularly the book is focused in on helping those who are homeless and addiction and overcoming felonies and mental illness, and you name all the things that are connected in with homelessness. It's all part of that. So this week we're in Matthew chapter 9, and I'm just going to read a little section here. And Jesus went through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. So I want to focus in on this harassed and helpless. Anybody else felt harassed and helpless? Good, admitting it. My guess is that all of us have felt that. So what does that look like on modern equivalent? What is today? What does it look like to be harassed and helpless? Bullying, being bullied. Bullied by other folks who are homeless, bullied by social workers, bullied by
It could be on
professionals.
employment too, because you know that you're a really good worker, but and that could be like you're working really hard and then the promotion or whatever goes to someone that you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
As hard,
that could be really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been reading through the kings in the Bible, like all the different kings. Some of them are really bad. And I think, well, God, didn't you have somebody that was good? We got these evil kings. Why did you select those evil people and did that? So we got co-workers sometimes get promoted, and you think, well, why them? Other places, harassed and helpless. What does that look like in our modern equivalent?
There are times when you feel harassed here, when you feel overwhelmed by the amount of classes and trying to get your stuff done out in the real world, and you just feel harassed.
It can be really challenging in real life.
You're bullied from every angle. Everywhere you turn, like, you've got so much on your plate that you're just.
You mean
Yeah,
help
our
us
own
like-
task list could make us feel harassed. There's things we got to get done. That could make you feel pretty helpless and worn out. You know, I think of all the things I need to do in a day, and if I think about it in the morning, I'm kind of paralyzed. You know, I don't know what to do with it. So Jesus is saying, we're going to get all these people, we're going to help them that are hopeless and harassed. We're going to help them move forward with their life, help them succeed, help them move forward, have a better life. What he's calling us to do is he's talking about shepherds going out and recruiting, going out and touching those folks that are hopeless and helpless. So he says, we're going to send out harvesters of the planet. Who are the harvesters? Who are we going to send out?
Us.
It has to be us. We can't just say we're going to trust just the professional ministerial class. They're the ones going to do it all. Because who are they going to connect with? They're going to connect with people who look like them. They're going to connect with people who already know the gospel. That's who the pastors are hanging out with. They're not necessarily hanging out with folks on the streets. So we need to be the voice out of the street. We need to be the light into the darkness. Because the streets are dark. There's a lot of evil out there. And there's people looking to take people out. So we got to be that voice going out there. So what are the prerequisites? What do you need to have in order to be able to be a good witness, to go out and gather in those people? What do you need to have?
You have to know the word.
Yeah. You have to have the word. You got to have some leadership, some compassion. And compassion, remember, means suffer with. It doesn't mean we just feel sorry for you. Feeling sorry for you is a bad emotion. That's not even helpful. You say, oh, poor little boobala, doing everything for you, carry the little baby. That's not what we're looking at. Compassion. I'm going to walk with you to whatever that takes. So what does that look like for all of us? What I was talking with somebody yesterday is I don't know if you know this, but you can't make somebody go get mental health help.
Right.
I really love to. I think that there's times where it would be helpful for that person, but it's illegal to do that. Anybody know some of the history of why it would be illegal?
Because back in the old days, they used to forcibly put people in there.
You ever seen Beauty and the Beast? I mean, how do they get the Beauty and the Beast? How do they get Belle's dad out of the way? Is they say, oh, he's insane, so we're going to put him in the mental asylum. Many years ago, my mom got into genealogy, trying to figure out our family line, and it turns out a lot of my family's from the very tip of Illinois. A little city called Anna, Illinois. If you look at Illinois, it's got this little tip of the Mississippi and Ohio joined together right there at the tip. And a lot of my family was from there on my mom's side. And so my mom goes to Anna, Illinois to find some family records. She had heard rumors from her grandmother and said, I don't know if that's true or accurate. Grandma's memory wasn't always 100%, just like any one of us. So she needed to go get the records to verify her genealogy notion. And so they go down to Anna, Illinois, they go to the courthouse, and they said, we would like to look at the records for the past 100 years or whatever she said. I don't remember how many years she said. And so, sure, absolutely. And my mom and dad go into this room, and they say, here's the boxes of all the records of Anna, Illinois, and the history of Anna, Illinois. Anybody know who spoke at Anna, Illinois at one point? Any guesses?
Lincoln, maybe?
Lincoln did. One of the Lincoln-Douglas debates was in Anna, Illinois. So both Lincoln and Douglas. So that would have been in one of those boxes somewhere. The newspaper the local newspaper articles of that. Maybe flyers from that would have been in one of those boxes. I don't know. They didn't get into it, but there's a whole warehouse full of boxes. And my dad looked at my mom and goes, where in the world do we start? How do we find your family in this? And so they're kind of looking through. One of the boxes was labeled mental asylum. And my dad looked at my mom and goes, with your family, this is a good place to start. So they go look and they open up these books, and they got these log books, just tons of them. And they open up the log books, and my dad's just kind of looking through there. And almost every other entry was a woman being put into the institution, in the mental institution, for talking back to her husband. How many wives would you say would have been in that category? My dad looked at my mom and said, "Oh, you're lucky we're in a different era." They've had a good marriage. They've been married for over 50 years. 53 years come June. So they've done a great job. But so there was kind of a joke, but they're looking through this, and every other, it's pretty amazing. So that system was abused. So now it's illegal to do that. But it would be helpful. But you know how we help someone come to the realization they need mental health help? We build a relationship with them. We get to know them. You say, you know what, I love you, I care about you, I want you to be successful. You know, the truth is, you're not seeing ninjas drop out of the ceiling. They're not really there. I know you see them, you believe they're real, but that's not really happening. Let me help you go get help so you can see clearly. I know you believe you've been pregnant with the same set of twins for 9 years. We love you, we care about you, but that's just not the way things work. You can't be pregnant with the same set of twins for 9 straight years. Usually you could have 18 kids by then. That is entirely possible. But if there's no birth over the course of 10 months or so, you're probably not going to have, it's not real. I need to get you some help. But that relationship's going to be able to do that. So one of the prerequisites, we're going to have to be believers. We're going to have to actually believe that Jesus is the light of the world, that he's ushering in the kingdom of light. We also have to believe in the opposite side, that the enemy is out there trying to destroy people. There's no motivation to go out there if you just think, oh, it's all good, we all get to heaven, it's all beautiful. The truth is, there's only one way to heaven. Only one road, and that is through Jesus Christ. So we've got to be a believer in that and know that. Then we can go out and have this hope that is exciting. When I was in my addiction, I had no hope. I had no chance for anything. I would wake up in the morning and it's like, woe is me. And then I'd go to bed, woe is me. I dressed every single day like, woe is me. And some of y'all dress like, woe is me. I'm going to tell you, you don't need to dress like, woe is me. You can dress for success all the time. I know we have one day we do it, but if you're a believer, say, I believe my life can be better, then you're going to dress and start matching up with that belief. So it's not just a check the box, I go to church once in a while belief. This is real belief. And then it has to be living the life of the way. This means you're to try to do what it says. St. Francis had this theology and this whole mindset that he said, why don't we just read the gospel and then do what it says? Just read the Bible and do what it says. That's as simple as we got to be. We can get into debates on doctrine and even some of the questions that I get each week, trying to sort through. Some of them are just doctrinal. In the big picture, it doesn't matter. How can I live this gospel? How can I pull this Bible out and say, how do I live this today? So, best technique, say, I'm going to read this today. God, I'm going to read, you know where I'm going to read. I'm going to read this today, and I want you to show me what I need to do. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But we also have to decide it's not just about me. It's not just about me. In the big picture of things, I don't really matter a whole lot. Now, 50 years from now, I will likely be forgotten. 50 years from now, nobody's going to my grave and checking it out. 50 years from now, my grandkids will have me a little thing on their little family tree saying, well, okay, there was grandfather, and then he had 3 kids, and then at least one of them has 3 kids, and then my other kids will get married, so maybe they'll have more grandchildren. But there's this family line going to come out, but I'm just a little name. That's all I'm going to be. So I don't really matter. But what does matter is what I'm doing in the lives of people around me right now. When I read the gospel, I want to make that happen. I want to share something yesterday that as I have a set pattern of what I read, but yesterday God said, I don't want you to read that. I got something else for you to read. And so he pushed me into the book of Ezekiel. And there's a whole story in prophet Ezekiel about a field of dry bones. And in this field, there's all these field bones, and God says, Ezekiel, I want you to prophesy to the dead bones. They're dry. He's not freshly dead. These have been dead a long time. And he's speaking life. He's speaking to them, and they prophesy. And then they come together. And then when they come together, God says, speak life into them. So the bones are together, but the bones have to come together first. So if we want to be successful, we have to say, I don't care about race. I don't care about denominations. I don't care about social classes. I don't care about past criminal offenses. I don't care about addictions. I am going to breathe life into. So I'm going to come together, and we're going to love and care for people and do it together, reaching out. Because every single one of you can touch somebody that I can't touch. Some of you already are written me off just because I'm a white male at 53 years old, Gen Xer. So you said Gen Xer, he's an old guy who doesn't know what he's doing. I write off the boomers, so I get that. And eventually you'll be writing off my generation, and whatever it is, we can't write each other off. It doesn't really matter. We got to go forward. Now, as we're looking at people that we usually write off, what if Jesus wrote off the apostles? Would it make sense for him to write off Peter? Peter was a mess. It doesn't matter how you cut it. Peter was a mess. He was very spontaneous. Different TV shows have him different ways, but he's a mess. And he's got his own way of thinking. He's very focused in on his thinking, and he's very deliberate. You got Matthew. Matthew's a tax collector. Matthew is betrayed his people. This would be like someone coming in here and waving the flag at some foreign country we're at war with. It'd be like my grandparents trying to wave the German flag during World War II. They were Germans, so they waved that German flag. That would not have gone well for them. And that's what Matthew was. He was like waving the Roman flag. Hey, everybody, love Rome, love Rome. T-shirt says, I love Rome. All those things. Jesus invites him in to be part of this whole thing. And then he adds to the mix, how about Simon the Zealot? Simon was trained to kill tax collectors. And there have been a history early on in Jesus' life where they did come in and kill tax collectors. The Zealots did that. And it was just after Jesus would have been while he was in Egypt. That whole season, there was a whole slaughter that took place of tax collectors, historically. Yet he has them on the same team? What is he thinking about? He's bringing these jokers together, having them do this. So there's nobody we should be writing off. And then let's add to the mix one more. How about Judas? Would you have invited Judas into your group? Knowing what Jesus knows. There's somebody going to betray me, and one of these 12 guys is going to do it, and as he gets it figured out, that's Judas. He's the one going to do it. How do you have a conversation with Judas when you know what's coming? So let's think about that. You know somebody's coming after you. How can you be friends with them? Love your enemies. Do good to those who hurt you. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to go out and we're going to love on people who are out there who badmouth us. People who think that you're no good because you sold out. You gave up your drugs. You're no longer one of us. Or maybe I don't know what are the modern terms for stool pigeon? Narc was one. Rat. Maybe that's why we got a rat trouble around here. But once you step out of that culture, all of a sudden, because that's a different culture. The street culture is different. I think most of us know that. People are still out there who don't want to come in. That's a different culture than what you have here. You have chosen to change your life. You want a better life. Now, whether you do that or not, I don't know. That's going to be up to you. But you have the opportunity while you're here to say, you know what, I am done with that past life. I want to go forward. And we can love on them. But we've got to get them to have that same mindset.
See, one of the problems we have in this area is that when people see the address on our applications, they just throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
That's why we have the job fair, to get you past some of that. So let me kind of go back to this. As our goal here is that to help you, guide you out of homelessness. So that way you get a new address for a place that you are paying for, that you are responsible for. So we're moving forward with that. And we really need you to partner with us. Now, our vocation in this room, all of us, is to love each other. But this is what I'm challenging you to go out and do. I want to give you what the challenge is. Has anybody ever heard the application, the newspaper ad for Shackleton's Journey? Anybody know who Shackleton was? Shackleton was going to be the first one. He wanted to go down to Antarctica. And he ends up his ship getting trapped, and he saves his entire crew. It's an amazing story of perseverance. This crew is trapped in the ice, and he rescues his entire crew. But this was the ad to recruit people. It says, men wanted for hazardous journey. So you ready for that? You're going to sign up. That's what I'm challenging you to do. Hazardous journey. Low wages, bitter cold, long hours, and complete darkness. That's the ad to try to get you to come work for him. What would my ad look like if I said that? How many people would apply based on what you got there? Misery guaranteed. But he finishes, safe return doubtful. Honor and recognition an event of success. And that's his whole ad. You know, he was recruiting for about 45 to 50 people. He ended up with 500 recruits. He had to sort through them. With that ad. That's kind of like the ad Jesus gave it to you. You're going to be attacked verbally, physically in some cases. We had some folks get killed in Nigeria last week. A guy taken captive in Australia, all sorts of craziness. But that's the promise. If you're going to go help out and you want to really be faithful to Jesus, you have to be willing to go suffer that. I got another favorite one who's, you know who Gimli is? Lord of the Rings? My very favorite quote is, certainty of death, small chances of success, what are we waiting for? That's the promise of Jesus. That's what he's calling us into. I am likely to fail. Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. My son has this t-shirt he likes to wear. It says, that's a terrible idea. When do we start? And it's gotten him into a lot of trouble over the years. So let me kind of finish up with this thought.
Realize that guy's actually over 6 feet tall.
Oftentimes, we're trying to help other people. And we often get ridiculed by other guests saying, you took too long working with this person. And sometimes we do guess wrong. We're trying to help. But this is the process. Jesus called us to be shepherds. When he's sending us out to gather the lost, and he's calling us to be shepherds, not to be dictators, not to beat people up and bring them in. But we're shepherds. I don't know if you realize this, but a shepherd has to work with the sheep from the time that sheep is born, little sheep, up to big sheep, and it's a process. It takes a long period of time. That sheep is not too bright, so he's got to teach that sheep how to live life and do things right. It takes time. We don't like to take time. We're Americans. We want it done next week. You want to be healed of whatever's going on in your life. You want to heal this week. It might take months, years, decades maybe to get your healing, but it's not a fast process. We're going to go forward with that. But I want you to kind of think of this way. If you beat addiction today, if you overcame any kind of disability you got, physical, mental, spiritual, social, whatever your disability, let's say you overcome it. What is the message going to be sent out to the rest of the world? When people look at you, when you have overcome it, what is going to be their message? What are they going to receive? If that guy could do it, I know I can. And you begin to become that inspiration for other people.
If nothing changes, does that make sense?
That makes sense. But we're going to look at you and say, you know what? I knew that guy when he was in and out of prison. He was living on the streets and he was doing whatever behaviors are going on that seemed outlandish. I remembered him then, but look at him now. That guy's got a job. He's got an apartment. Maybe he owns his own business. Maybe he's getting ready to buy his first house. Man, what would that say to the rest of the world? You know, that's going to be much more powerful than just going out and talking to some people. Your life becomes the story. Your life becomes the picture. That's why I share the story of my redemption, of what God did for me. So what would it be like if you just went out and lived? If you really believed, then went out and lived. What would that look like?
Peace.
What was that?
Peace.
You're trying.
I give all my credit to God. I mean, it's God. It's our God. For real.
That's the thing. You have to work at Jesus. I love Jesus, but Jesus, it's a partnership with him. He's not going to do everything, and sometimes these things are difficult and they are hard, but he wants you to go through these processes to build you and strengthen you and build your character too.
It's a struggle, it's still gonna be a struggle.
It's always going to be a struggle.
Every day.
And don't forget, not just God, also the people who are behind you.
And when they see you overcome that struggle, what are they going to think?
Work at it.
Again, if he could do it, I could do it.
Be the light.
There's hope. You're going to be the light. You're going to be the salt that's spicing up their life. Some of you are already that in a different negative way. But so we can do it in a very positive way. Added excitement to their life. All right. Well, Jesus, I want to thank you for this group of men and women who have been here, some of the conversation piece we've had. And I ask you to bless them. Ask you to strengthen them, encourage them, inspire them to serve you, and then to go out and reach others that are lost and bring them into you. Amen.
Amen.